President of the Kerala Brahmana Sabha, Mr. Mohanji, office bearers of the Kerala Brahmana Sabha, and in this August assembly, the Brahmins of Kerala, not only of Palghat but from other parts also, and all the districts. I'm greatly privileged to be invited here to speak to you on a matter which is now of grave importance, and that is the position of Brahmins in the society. I need not tell you that Kerala was created by a Brahmin called Parasurama. So the people of Kerala should be more respectful of Brahmins than Brahmins anywhere else. And Parasurama was not only a Brahmin, but he was also a fighter. People are afraid of him. And that is the status to which you must now raise the Brahmins of Kerala, that the rest of Kerala is afraid of you. It's not important how strong you are. If you go to a circus, you will see in a cage 5 strong lions, very strong, well fed. One thin ringmaster will walk in, and he will tell the lions, climb up. They will all climb up. He will tell them to jump through a ring of fire. They will jump through the ring of fire. Why is it that the lions don't all pounce on this ringmaster and tear him to pieces? Because from childhood, the lion is brought up to obey. And it doesn't know it is a lion. That is why I am saying to Brahmins that you don't know that you are Brahmins. The strength of the Brahmin lies in his ability to be able to use his mental powers to overcome evil. Similarly, if you can have large numbers, but that doesn't mean that you will be able to overpower people with low numbers. If there are 1,000 goats at one place and one tiger comes there, 1,000 goats can surround that tiger and kick it till it is dead. But the goats have got so much fear that when they see the lion, the tiger, they all run away. And then the tiger goes after them and catches one of them because it's hungry for its lunch, so it needs a lunch. So, numbers don't matter. Strength doesn't matter unless you have the brain to know how to manage the situation. So today I am saying to you that please learn from the Jews of the world. They were the most brilliant, intelligent people. I was told doctors, lawyers, engineers, all are sitting here. Jews were also like that. But a crude army of Hitler put them through gas chambers and killed 6 million of them. It is then they realized that strength must come not only by union but by brains, by the knowledge how you can defend yourself. Today there are 10 million Jews in Israel. There are 150 million Arabs surrounding it. And yet any time there is a war, it is Israel that wins. Israel has got so much brains that they can even hack an iPhone today. You know what has happened recently in 𝗽𝗂𝘀𝗀 case. So therefore, brains plus organization plus a mindset on how to fight, that will be the most powerful combination that can take place. You have the brains, you have the occasion, you have democracy that can launch you to power. You can again be a factor to decide in which directions our country can go. I would like to tell you that all through history, we have found situations where one doesn't know one's strength. Hanuman did not know his strength. It was Rama who said you can do it. Hanuman didn't know he could fly over the ocean to Lanka. It was Rama who said you can go. Therefore, today the Brahmins of Kerala are like Hanuman. They don't know their strength. And somebody has to tell you that you have strength. I have seen myself that a lot of people are afraid of me. But I am only one person. Because I know how to fight in the system. I can put a case on somebody and send them to jail. I got Sonia Gandhi on bail. And if anybody puts a case on me, I know how to fight. I don't need lawyers because lawyers cost too much money. So I have learned law myself. I suggest to all of you, you learn the law. You will become very powerful. So therefore, you must now start holding classes on law. You must start holding, you empower your people to know how to use the power of the state without being in. I have been a minister twice. This is my 6th term in Parliament. But it's basically how to use the power of the system that enables me to do what I can do as an individual. So today the Brahmins of Kerala have a duty because you have a history. The Brahmins here have shown to the whole world, shown to the whole of India. When Bodhidharma went to China and taught them Buddhism, he originally picked up all the Kalaripattu and all these methods. He learned it here and taught it there, which in Chinese was called wushu. And wushu, when read in Japanese, is called karate. And this karate now we are importing from Japan and saying, I am learning karate from Japan. They should say, I am learning from Kerala. It came from Kerala. So, today I would urge you, I would also like to tell you how to proceed ahead. First of all, we must understand the various historical figures of Brahmins and how they have molded the situation. You know that Adi Sankara went walking all over the country and used the principle of Shastrat, of debate. He said at that time India was a Buddhist country. And Adi Sankara came from which state, may I ask you? He came from your Kerala state. He came from Kerala, went all the way to Sree Iyer, to Kashmir. All the way he stopped and challenged the most important Buddhist scholar or Mimamsa school scholar and defeated him in the debate and converted him back to Hinduism. That's how Hinduism came back. Because that time Shankara knew to fight the Buddhists, you have to fight them with the brain. So, that is the contribution of Adi Sankara. Then we have the case of Chanakya, also a Brahmin, also all alone. He was insulted by the Nanda dynasty. He said, I will bring you down. And he caught hold of a shepherd, a young boy shepherd, and made him into the king. And that's how the kingdom came and the Nandas were demolished. The Maurya kingdom came that way. Chandragupta Maurya became the greatest conqueror of India. And he came from a very low background, but he trained. So if you are a Brahmin, don't move only amongst Brahmins. Move again with others also and bring them around with you. And where their strength is, utilize it. People who gave you the law like Manu, Yajnavalkya, they were Brahmins too. But what they wrote in what is called as the Smriti, that Smriti is today the guiding force of the Hindu population. And even today, till recently, you had people who could transform by just speaking to the people. The Kanchi, Shankara, Chandrasekhar and Saraswati is an example of who he influenced so many people. He even influenced me to work for the renaissance of Hinduism. So therefore, today we must understand what it means, what is our duty. I ask people, is there any difference between a Brahmin and Kshatriya, or a Shudra, or a Vaishya, or even a scheduled caste, physically? The answer is there was only one way to tell. That is by studying the DNA of Brahmins and others. And the Journal of Genetics in Cambridge University have done this. So is the University of Mysore. So is the University of Houston. And it says the DNA of all Indians is the same. There is no difference in the DNA between any Indian. Whether he is a North Indian or a South Indian, an East Indian, West Indian. Aryan Dravidian theory is bogus. Dravida was a term invented by Adi Sankara when he called himself as Dravida Shishu. Dravida means where the three oceans meet. South India was called Dravida. Aryan, there is no such word in Sanskrit. There is only Arya. Arya means a person who is civilized. And that included everybody in India who accepted the principles of Hinduism. And so, the British came here and distorted our minds. They knew that the Brahmins were the biggest threat. So they ended up making us into clerks for the East India Company and later on for Queen Victoria. That mentality has to go. You cannot be as a Brahmin, you must use that knowledge for the renaissance of society. Not to earn a salary, get a provident fund, and then retire at home. There is no retirement possibility for a Brahmin because his job is to teach. He can teach in a very informal ways. He can teach his children. He can teach his neighbor. He can teach whoever wants to learn from him. So that is again something that we have to recognize, that the role of Brahmin is different from others, even though we are the same Indians. There is no difference between any Indian and another Indian genetically. But there is a difference in the goal that you choose. Lord Krishna in Gita, in two places, actually in three places, but I have chosen two places. One is on chapter 4 and in Shloka 13, where he says that the fourfold grouping, Chaturvaranyam, I will not read in Sanskrit, I'll translate in English, the fourfold grouping of people, a division based on duties and qualities, not on birth, was created by me. Even though I am its author, know me to be the ever changeless. So this is the first time he says in chapter 4, on Shloka 13. Then second time he refers to it on chapter 18, which is the last chapter in first in 41, Shloka 41. The duties of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras, Arjuna, the scorcher of foes, are divided according to the qualities born of Swabhava. It is your quality that you are born with, not where you are born in. Divided, which is divided, which is qualities of born of Swara. Then he goes on to say composure, restraint, religious discipline, cleanliness, accommodation, rectitude, knowledge, assimilated knowledge, accepting the veracity of Vedas are collectively the duties of those who are known as Brahmins. So these are the conditions to be a Brahmin. Then he goes on to say valor, self-confidence, resolve. This is the 43rd shloka. Valor, self-confidence, resolve, adroitness, not running away from conflict, giving, overlordship, leadership are naturally born duties and disposition of a Kshatriya. Then he says agriculture, tending cattle, commerce are the duties of the Vaishya. And then finally the duty of the Sudra is in service. So, we are Brahmins. When children are born in a Brahmin family, they have an advantage. Like if a boy is born or girl is born in a lawyer's family, it's easy for them to become a lawyer. If you are born in a mathematician's family, it becomes easy for the children to become mathematicians. So same way, if you are born in a Brahmin family, it's easy to become a Brahmin. But you get a Brahmin only if you follow the duties of the Brahmin. You cannot be a crook. I met in my party, BJP, whose name I will not take, was a person one day who came and told me that he too is a Brahmin. I said, but you are a crook. You cannot be a Brahmin. You have corruption cases against you. You cannot be a Brahmin. So therefore, you can be born in a Brahmin house, but if you don't follow the duties of the Brahmin, then you cannot be a Brahmin. So therefore, this is essentially, Brahmins usually means a Jnani, a Tyagi and a Sahasi. He must be Sahasi. He must not be afraid. So if you want to conquer Kerala once again, after all you did conquer it before, whether it was Parasurama or Adi Sankara or so many other kings that you produced, and what a wonderful civilization you produced, what lovely temples you have produced, what knowledge you have produced. But if you want to do it again, you must not only be a Jnani and a Tyagi in the sense you don't hanker after riches and big halls and so on and so forth, luxury, you don't hanker after it. But at the same time, you must be Sahasi, you must not be afraid, you must be courageous. Then you can once again become the Brahmin. Now, if you look at our Maharishis, they came from different families. Vishwamitra was born in a Kshatriya family, but he became the Rishi of Rishis. Even the gods were afraid of him because he acquired that knowledge. He acquired the characteristics of a Brahmin. Similarly, Veda-Vyasa's mother was a fisherwoman. You know that. Yet he wrote the Mahabharata and he was a great saint. Kalidasa was cutting branches of trees, and then he was married to a princess on a conspiracy, and then she taught him to become the greatest poet India has ever produced. Peshwas were Brahmins, but they led the Maratha army to victory. The final defeat of the Mughals in Pune was given by the Peshwas. Mughal Empire ended with the Peshwas. Today I can find out the descendants of the Peshwas if I go to Aurangabad or some place like that in Maharashtra. I can find out the people who defeated in Madhya Pradesh in Holkar, the Ahilya Bai who rebuilt in a different place, of course, the Kashi Vishwanath temple. I can name the descendants of the Jaipur Rajas, but can you please tell me where are the descendants of the Mughals today? Is there anyone who says my ancestors was Akbar? Any person who claims that his ancestors are Aurangzeb? I can't find a single person. Finally, I was told that the last descendant of the Mughals is living in the waiting room of the Sialda railway station in Calcutta. And she's not yet paid the rent for the last 30 years. This is so this country ultimately defeated whoever came here. So many people came here. The Mughals came, the Muslims came to this country, conquered it. We fought for 600 years, defeated them, remained largely Hindus. From 100%, we may have come down to 80%, but we largely Hindus. What happened when the Muslims went to Iran? The Zoroastrians were ruling, highly civilized population. World over they had gone. They were defeated and converted 100% to Islam. A few remained, they came running to India. Our people gave them sanctuary, and they are known in our country as Parsis. And they have prospered. Nobody has ever troubled them. And when the British left India, they asked the Parsis, you are a small minority. Like the Anglo-Indians, we will give you also protection and give you reservations. They said, no, 1,000 years the Hindus have looked after us. We have had no problem. You go. We are all right without you. This was our tradition. The Jews, they went all over the world and butchered. Except one country. They came to India and they came to Cochin. Our people here, the Hindus, built them the synagogue which you can still see in Cochin. Bombay. When Israel was formed, many went back. And Israel Parliament passed a resolution. Thank you, India. The only country which did not persecute the Jews. We are the only country which didn't persecute the Jews. Even today in America, the Jews live there, but there is always a fear that they might be persecuted. The former President Trump has recently said that Americans are now begun to become suspicious of Jews. This is the first time after Hitler somebody has said something like this. So our country is this tradition. We are the longest surviving living civilization. And this contribution goes squarely by division of labor, to the Brahmins. They are the ones who wrote the books, they are the ones who taught them, those are the ones who continued it. And this continuation, today the UNESCO has tabulated 45 countries which have 45 countries which were civilizations. 44 have disappeared. The Iranian civilization disappeared. The Greek civilization disappeared. The Roman civilization disappeared. The Egyptian Pharaoh civilization disappeared. All of them disappeared except one, the Hindu civilization of India. And wherever we went, no violence was ever used. Go to Vietnam, go to Cambodia, go to Laos, go to Thailand, go to Indonesia, Sri Lanka, anywhere, everywhere. China, up till the communist rule, China had a very long connections, cultural relations with us because of Buddhism. And this connection all was done by arguments. Bodhidharma, when he went to Shaolin in China, the emperor was so angry that he sent an army to kill finish off the ashram, but without violence, using kalaripattu, what is then came to be known in Chinese as wushu, and the Japanese said karate. They defeated the army not by killing them, but by making them impossible to fight, having broken their bones. So therefore, this is the tradition that the Brahmins must bring up. Your unity is essential for that, not for anything else. There are Brahmins all over India. So if any of you are targeted, the rest of India will stand up for you. I can tell you that without hesitation. The unity of Brahmins in UP, Bihar, Madhya Pradesh is all very strong. But the Brahmins haven't recovered that position of being teachers, of carriers of traditions, of writing the history books correctly and bring us up to date. I would say, I run an organization called Virat Hindustan Sangam, and we don't do any agitational activity or all that, but we are interested in the mind not of a circus lion or a goat, but a properly brought up lion which knows its strength, and the rest of the jungle is afraid of it, crossing the lion. These 5 principles I would advocate to Brahmins also, in order for you to become a united group. First is, learn the true history of India. It is not Aryan, Dravidian, that nonsense. It is not that anybody came to this country and looted this country and lived this country, ruled over this country. No. It's a continuing civilization. Learn that history. 2, learn who you are. DNA says that all Indians have the same DNA. Even in the Northeast, people have the same DNA. Not 100% like the rest of us, but something over 85%. The DNA is the same. This is one country, one. There is no Aryan, Dravidian, no other division. Third thing you learn as part of this second item is that there is no difference between us, and even if we have divisions, that is a economic division or a political division or a social division for a purpose. So we are one people. Our history is unbroken, continuous history and still surviving. Third thing is, which only India has, and that is the solution for happiness. We have a harmonious economic philosophy. Which means what? Which means that money is not the determining factor of your social status. Brahmins had no money, but they had socially the highest position. The king used to listen to the Brahmin. The Vaishya used to listen to the Brahmin. The Shudra used to listen to the Brahmin. We had an unfortunate chapter of scheduled caste, but they were not permanent. The children of scheduled castes are not scheduled castes. And given proper education, they become part of us, or sometimes better than us. Dr. Ambedkar went to his Brahmin teacher. Ambedkar had a Brahmin teacher. His Brahmin teacher's name was Ambedkar. Dr. Ambedkar's name actually was 𝗵𝗚𝘂𝘀𝗀 Mahar. And this teacher said, take my name, because you're so bright, you will be taken to any foreign university. So he went to Columbia University and got a PhD in economics, wrote a thesis on monetary economics, which I have read. Even today is worth reading. It's not out of date. Then he went to England and got from London School of Economics DSc. And then he became bar at law. He became a lawyer, came to India, and he was made by Sardar Patel as chairman of the Constituent Assembly's Fundamental Rights Committee, and Rajendra Prasad as president of the Constituent Assembly, as the chairman of the drafting committee of the Constitution. He drafted the committee, participated in the debates, accepted amendments, rejected amendments, and created a constitution which is today considered one of the best in the world. It stands a tribute to us. But he was a son of a scheduled caste. And many people tell me, I have not been able to find documents yet, but Valmiki, who wrote the Ramayana, was also son of a scheduled caste. In fact, he was a dacoit in his early childhood, in his early manhood. And later on, he had the vision of Lord Rama, and he wrote the Ramayana. So, therefore, the scheduled caste was a temporary phenomenon. For whatever reason, a family was set aside from society, but the children were not. This phenomenon came later, after the Mughals came, and then got further cemented in the British here. It is because the DNA is the same. It proves what I am saying. It's a scientific study. You can go to Google and find out the DNA is the same. So the third thing is that you will pursue material prosperity, but at the same time you will also work for the spiritual growth of yourself. A harmonization of economic progress with spiritual advancement. That is true about India. And we do not think that wealth is the determination of your status in society, as in America it is. Not in our country. When I was a student getting my PhD at Harvard, my classmates used to ask me, how can you accept Mahatma Gandhi as your leader? So I said, why? He says, he's half naked. He's only got a piece of cloth here. And you have accepted him as leader. That is the greatness of Hinduism. A man who makes the sacrifice of all his comforts in life and just wears a langoti, he is somebody who we venerate. We have respect for sadhus and sannyasis. They are not dressed like the Pope. Have you ever seen the Pope dressed? He's got all the jewels, everything. You know, he's the most well-decked person I've seen. Or you see the Makkah mullah there, how well dressed they are. But our sadhus and sannyasis are dressed so simply with hadi. That is the sign. Sacrifice, giving up, these are high values. Yes, you must work for material prosperity. And India did. It became the most developed country right up to 1750. Then imperialism bled us so much that we became poor. But our society, those who pursued wealth, were respected if they gave philanthropy, if they gave dan, but they were not as respected as those who had given up everything for the sake of knowledge. That was the Brahmins. So it is in this context I mention it. We were a decentralized society. Our country was decentralized, but when there was war, we came together. Mahabharata, what is Mahabharata? Even your Kerala, Trivandrum, Travancore Raja, he went to Kurukshetra. But then he saw two brothers fighting. He said, I will cook for both of you, but I will not participate. Like a good Keralite, he started a restaurant there for the warriors. But all over India people came because it was a national war. Even Ramayana would have been a national war, but Rama said to Lakshman, who was insistent that the army from Ayodhya be called before they go to Lanka. Rama said no, because if the army comes here, then the people here who are portrayed as monkeys, what will they feel? They will have to feed them. Because the army comes here, you have to feed them. You have to look after them. Who will do it? The local people will do it. And they will resent it that we are not trusted to fight the war. And so they have to bring somebody from somewhere else. He says in India, regions and their people's sentiment matters. And today we are people who will not stand for nonsense from the center if it affects our regional sensibilities. So that's there and now. These are things that we have to learn. Finally, the Rishi Munis have said, intelligence is not just reading books. That is called cognitive intelligence in English. Cognitive intelligence. You know physics, you know mathematics, you know these are cognitive intelligence. Then the rishis have said there is a second type of intelligence, and that is called emotional intelligence. How to speak, how not to speak, how to put your arguments across. We have that Mimamsa school only on this. I am told by some judges who know the subject, like Dr. Justice Ganguly, who is retired and gone now. He is in fact said it in a judgment that if we use in the courts the logic of the Mimamsa, arguments based on the laws laid down in the Mimamsa, it will be far superior and far quicker to give judgments than the British system that we follow. But we have still a long way to go because our country has come through a great deal of brainwashing that the British did in those 100 years they were in power. But these are areas which we need to understand. That's called emotional intelligence. How to put out your argument to win the other side. Emotional intelligence. Then there is a moral intelligence. What you should do and should not do. That of course is in large number of the areas you see. When Duryodhana was approached by Lord Krishna and he said, Lord Krishna said, keep Indraprastha for you. You want Indraprastha, you want Hastinapur, you keep it. But give 5 villages for each one Pandava. And Duryodhana said, no, not even the tip of the needle that I have, I will give to them. That is called lack of moral intelligence. So that Krishna then said, war is inevitable. War has always been last resort. Similarly, there is something called spiritual intelligence. And spiritual intelligence is what? That all the knowledge is in the Brahmand, past, present, future. If your brain can connect to it, you will be the genius of the society. That's why meditation is prescribed. Because the brain has something called the neural Wi-Fi. It can connect to that, what surrounds the earth is called the Brahman or the cosmos. So we have therefore prescribed in our teaching spiritual intelligence, social intelligence. Don't start a factory and put smoke into the atmosphere that the people living in the area, they may like the fact that they got employment, but by taking that smoke-filled air, they get diseases. So social intelligence is another intelligence. And finally, the environmental intelligence. Develop the environment. Why do we worship stones? Why do we worship trees? Because environment is not something the West is teaching us. All through our history, we have had that. And therefore, today, we need a new Brahmin. Not a Brahmin who says, I'm a Brahmin. That's not enough. You must show that I am performing the duties of a Brahmin. And that means where there is wrong, you will oppose it. Where there is ignorance, you will fill it with, not the same person. Different people will take that task. And thereby, the role of a Brahmin becomes that of a teacher. Yes, you don't have to live in a hut like in those days. You live simply. You live with whatever you need. You need a computer, of course you will have a computer. You can't say, no, I'm living in a hut, there's no electricity, so I can't have a computer. So this modernized Brahmin is what I'm looking for. And if you want to create a movement on that, I would be happy to be associated with your organization. Brahmins must not only fight atrocities to Brahmins. There are some places they are. In Tamil Nadu there is. But in Tamil Nadu I have no problem because they are afraid of me. But that's not good enough. Every Brahmin should be that way. But our Brahmins in Tamil Nadu, 𝗍𝗂𝗀𝘀𝗀𝗀. This is all they tell me. Number varila polam. So I am saying to you today, the Brahmin is the leader, morally and mentally. And to become a leader, you must train yourself. And you must have the courage to demonstrate to others that you are willing to take a stand against injustice and for justice. Thank you very much for this opportunity.